Hi, fourth grade. I hope you're ready for another week of online learning and more math work this week. This week in math, you guys are going to be learning more math vocabulary words. We're not going to do so much problem solving. We're doing more learning the vocabulary words and how to know what they look like and how to see them in shapes and just knowing what they are. This is super important because you will see these types of questions on SBAC and MI, and they're going to always try to trick you. So we're working on 3 vocabulary words today. Tomorrow you're going to learn 2 more. And then Thursday will be a review of these vocabulary words you learned this week and then the ones from the previous week in angles. So it's a lot of vocabulary, but as long as you pay attention to these videos and understand the vocabulary words, the work after this should be super easy. And you know you can always come back to watch these videos if you forget what a vocabulary word is, okay? And I also always attach the anchor charts I make, so you can always refer to those. And if you have a printer at home, you can always print it out to look at it, or even if you have a notebook, just take notes and look at those. All right, so let's get started. So we're learning 3 words. We're learning parallel, perpendicular, and intersecting. And if you don't know what they are, once I start going over them, you're going to be like, oh, I know what those kind of lines are. So the first word is parallel. Parallel lines are lines that will never cross. So as you can see my examples, I'm going to draw it so you can see it closer. My lines aren't as straight, but these 2 are parallel to each other. So if I kept going with these lines, continuing on, they will never cross, okay? So if I was to draw this one, and I kept going, they will never cross. If I was to draw these 2 lines right here, if I was to continue on with this, they end up crossing. So that is not parallel. You want to make sure your 2 lines never cross each other. Now, one thing that I would have taught you if you were in the classroom is how to write these. I probably won't ask you how to do that today's assignment, but I want to show you. So let's think back to when we were learning angles and you knew all of them they all had letters on them. So this line is AB and this line is CD. Okay, so these 2 lines are parallel to each other. If I wanted to write this, I would say AB, that line, that's the little line symbol, is parallel, that's the parallel symbol, to CD. Okay, if I was to do another one, let's see. Now these 2 lines are parallel. Let's call this EF, GH. These lines are definitely parallel. I know that because they're never going to cross. So if I wanted to write it, it would be EF. That's line EF. Parallel is just two lines to GH. Okay? So that's how you write the parallel lines. Now, I'm going to go over one more thing that you're going to see. But before I go over, I just want to talk about parallel lines and where you could see them in the real world. Think where you might be walking or somewhere outside that you can see parallel lines. One place that you definitely will see parallel lines is when you're driving. So if you look in the center of the road, next time you're in the car, look in the center of the road, you'll see those 2 yellow lines that split the 2 sides up. If you look at them, those are parallel lines. They're 2 lines, those 2 yellow lines, and if you notice, just keep following it as you're driving, they will never cross each other. So that's an example of parallel lines. Another example is the railroad tracks. If you look at the railroad tracks, you will see that they will never cross each other. The 2 things where the wheels wheels of the train go on, look at those tracks. They will never cross each other. So those are two real world examples of where you'll see them. There's so many other places you're going to see parallel lines, and I'm sure you think about it right now, or you'll see them, throughout the day. Those are parallel lines. But one other thing that I want to go over for parallel lines is how you see it in a shape, because this is something you will see on SBAC, on those IABs that you take, the MI. They like to trick you guys, but you guys are smart, so you're going to know these answers. But they're going to show you a shape, and this I just drew a square. Actually, it's probably more of a rectangle because it's not exactly the same. But they'll ask you a question like, how many sets of parallel lines do you see in this shape? So if you get confused, you can always look at the line. Is this parallel to this? If you continued on, they will never cross. So is this a parallel line? Yes. So that's one set. A, C, and B, D. That's one set of parallel lines. But there's another one in this. You look at this to this. That's a second set of parallel lines. So in this rectangle, square, whatever you want to call it, it's two sets of parallel lines, okay? It's not four, because 4 lines, it's 2 sets, because this is one set, and then this is another, okay? You will see questions like that, and you'll see them on my work that I'm going to give. So let's just I'm going to draw one more shape to see. Okay. So here's another shape. It might say, how many sets of parallel lines do you see? So let's look at the bottom and the top. Even though this line is shorter than this line, like smaller, if I was to continue with this line and this line, they never cross each other. So this is a set of parallel lines. So that's one set right there. But then if you look at the sides, if I was to continue on, they would eventually cross. So that is not a set of parallel lines. So in this shape, there's only one set of parallel lines, AB to CD. Okay? I hope you understand that. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next one. If you are confused, rewind the video and rewatch it again, or reach out to me and ask me. Okay? I'm going to go on to the next vocabulary word. Okay, so our next vocabulary word is going to be perpendicular lines. And perpendicular lines will cross to make right angles. And we know right angle is always 90 degrees, so we see them in a square, it's the corner. So that is perpendicular lines. So you'll see them, they look, there's examples here, but they look, this is a perpendicular line. I continued on. They're perpendicular because it's always 90 degrees. So perpendicular lines always cross each other, and they always form 90 degrees. So even if this was turned, and that's one thing, you guys saw that the angles turned a little bit, and some of you got confused by it. If I turn this, even though it's not facing up and down this way, it's turned a little bit, you can still tell that it's 90 degrees. So it's perpendicular lines, okay? You can see perpendicular lines in the railroad in a few different places. So I printed out some pictures. A railroad crossing sign. Notice it's crossing, but oops, sorry. If you turn it, I don't know how to turn it to make it look, but no matter which way I turn, there we go. You can see it's 90 degrees in each crossing. Another one is a symbol. You might see this sign somewhere on the road. There's perpendicular lines in that symbol. Also, the floor tiles. If you have tile in your house, go look at the tile and notice, this is a very bad picture, but notice that the grout in between it, they cross and make perpendicular lines. So now let's talk about a shape if we see it in a shape. I'm going to draw a square again. Now, the square, so this line meets this line, that's a 90-degree angle. That is also a perpendicular line because they meet right there. Okay, so, and if I was to continue on with this line, it would be perpendicular. So there's 4 perpendicular lines in a square. So if they were to ask you a question, how many perpendicular lines are in a square in this shape, you would say 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And how you write it is you would write, so let's say AB, line AB, we're going to do AB to this line, is perpendicular to B, that's a P, D. And that's the symbol for perpendicular. It looks like a little T, but it's just crossing. So it meets at a 90-degree angle. Okay? I'll draw one more shape. So I drew a rectangle. The question would be like, how many perpendicular lines do you see? We have 1 here, 2, 3, 4. Okay? It's just 90 degrees, okay, where the 2 lines meet. And it has to be a 90-degree angle. Now, this, so we have, this is perpendicular lines. I continued on. But think about this. Would that be, even though they're crossing, would that be perpendicular lines? No, it would not. Because if I was to measure this, this would not be 90 degrees. Not be at all. So just don't get confused with that, okay? Look at my examples. Think of the real world examples. Okay, and the last word we're going to do today, intersecting. I feel like a lot of you have heard this word before. It's just lines that will cross, but they don't make a right angle, okay? So easy, just intersecting lines. So these intersect, that's intersecting lines. Those are intersecting lines. And you can tell they're not making a right angle. So anything that intersects that doesn't make a right angle are intersecting lines. Don't get confused between perpendicular and intersecting. Totally different, okay? Sorry, my son just woke up from a nap. But perpendicular is crossing to make right angles. So it's a 90-degree right angles, okay? That perfect, think of a square, the corner. And intersecting, they intersect, but they don't make right angles. And I have real world examples where you might see them. So one example is scissors. Think about the scissors where they cross. Those are intersecting lines, but they don't make a right angle. And then I also found an example of train tracks, but not the parallel lines when they cross, when one set of train tracks crosses another one, okay? So those are the 3 words you learned today: parallel, perpendicular, and intersecting lines. If you're confused, rewatch the video or reach out to me, but just look at my examples, think about the real world examples I gave you, and let me know if you need help.